So, about 15 years ago, I started teaching design in colleges. And I was young and naive, so I thought this is what I was getting myself into. Teachers are center of attention, and young, enthusiastic students, they want to learn. And when the teacher does a good job, this will happen, and student will bring apples to me, show their appreciation. So I got plenty of apples, I have to tell you, but it wasn't the kind that I was expecting. It's more like this. I was confused. Why are you all hiding behind a little screen? Why are you listening to me? And then all of a sudden I realized the problem wasn't them, the problem was me. Because the traditional model of education is based on information sharing. But today, if students, they really want information, they don't have to come to me. They go to where I go for information. So there's really no need for me to exist if information is all I can share. So I realized for teachers, what my job really is to understand who I'm teaching. The only way I can help facilitate their learning is by understanding how they think and how they see the world. So that's when I started my journey on trying to understanding millennials. So today I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts. This was my first realization, and actually it was a little shocking to me. These digital natives that we call, they're so prolific in using all these technologies, but when it comes down to it, they actually don't really understand what is under the hood. And honestly, we have to take some responsibility for that. Because teachers, parents, that's what we do to them. Back in the good old days, if I get a toy like this, trust me, in a couple of days, this will happen. And I will try to put it back together, and most of the time, I won't be able to do it. But in the process, I learned so much about how things work. But today, for millennials, this is their toy, and this is what we want them to do with it. We want them to lock it down, put a bulletproof case so it doesn't break. So in colleges, if you go to a computer lab, it is more like a library than actual laboratory where experimentations happen. We lost that already. So because they don't really understand how these things work, everything seems so magical to them. They put technology on a pedestal and then idolize them, and then becomes a consumer, a user instead of creator. That is why in my classes, I try to promote what I call the creative misuse of technology. I want them to experiment. I want them to make mistakes and see what happens. And that is also how I learn technology as well myself. Here's an example. This is a series of work that I have done, and it's called CJ Was Here. I call it the Conceptual Digital Imaging Series. So I went to 12 locations in New York, and that had significant meaning to me as an artist, and I took photos, simple digital photos like this. Afterwards, I opened up these digital files in text editing program like Word. So basically, I'm looking at a bunch of computer code that I don't understand. And then I search through the code and find those @ signs, and then replace that with CJ Was Here. So because of the merge of human language and computer language, artifacts starting to happen and starting to destroy the digital data. And the interesting thing is, through the creative process, I actually don't know what the result is going to be. Depends on where I put it, depends on how many, and the result is all going to be very different. And I see that process as almost as a metaphor of what happened in our real life. The second realization is this. We all have heard the term attention economy, and it becomes a commodity that can be traded. Companies, brands, teachers, parents, we're all fighting for millennials' attention. For teachers like me, it's a frustrating battle because honestly, how can you expect me to fight this? That's just way too interesting. I can't win this battle. It was so frustrating, I decided I'm going to make an art piece out of this. So I created this piece called Like Me 777. So it's a software program. If you stand in front of it, any movement that you make is going to give you a like. And when you hit a magic number, it's going to shower you with all kinds of praises, like this. And obviously, my attention is not free neither, so I ask for them to like me back at the end. Happiness, I think, is like a shark, you know? It has to constantly move forward, otherwise it dies. This is a spin-off from the famous Woody Allen quote, and I use it as a way to describe the millennials eager to have this endless pursuit of the next big thing. So I created another piece about this. So it's called Happiness Times 100, because I thought this process of waiting for the next big thing is like the Sisyphus mythology. So I created another software program. If you stand in front of it, you'll get a Super Mario hat, and you can jump and knock gold coins out of the Google Plus logo, like this. The rule of the game is very simple. You have to hit exactly 100 gold coins. But the algorithm that I wrote in there basically makes sure there's no chance you can get it. So you have to go through this continuous process of pursuit of happiness. In Chinese, we say 教学相长. It means a great teacher actually learns as much from the student as the student has learned from him. And I truly believe that. I think that my process of trying to understand millennials has made me a more interesting artist, and also by understanding their view of the world has changed how I approach my design as well. The most obvious example would be this: branding. This is how branding used to be. You design a nice logo, put the same thing anywhere, same thing every time. And the constant process, the rule is you have to make sure it's consistent and you have to repeat it. But the world has changed. Now we don't live in a mass media society. Mass media society is like a speech. I get a microphone, I talk, and you listen. But new media age is a completely different world. In the age of social media, it's more like a party. Everyone is talking, and no one has time for boring conversation. So imagine this. You go to a party, and then go to every single person and say the same joke every time. How does that work? It doesn't work quite well. So that is why flexible identity system becomes such a big thing these days. Because if you really want to say, my company is innovative, you shouldn't be doing this. You should be doing something more like this. Because that act itself shows that you are innovative, you are different. And here's another example. This is a logo designed by my design studio called Sinda Media Lab. And our core concept is we want to demonstrate that interior design is an art of creating functional space. But a static image doesn't really get that message across that well. It should be something more dynamic like this. So this kind of flexible identity system is a balance between constant and variables. And here, in this case, the constant is the logo type and the isometric grid. And the variable, obviously, is the two color bands that forms the illusion of the space. The process is both exciting but challenging for designers at the same time. That's why today I like to introduce a creative process of one of our most recent projects, which is for this company called Gond. And some of you know, the company Gond is a famous toy design company, one of the very first to design and produce teddy bears. And they're known for producing these very soft, feel-good products. So that's why the world's most huggable has been their brand position for decades and was very successful. But it's not as effective these days anymore because every teddy bear behind the screen feels the same. It's really hard to establish your brand position based on a tactile feeling today in the digital e-commerce age. So we knew something has to be done to change this. After the research, we go through the process of creative brainstorming. The whole purpose of this process is to get as many ideas out as possible and leave no stone unturned. Even crazy idea like this gets discussed. And the idea behind it is, if Gone is famous for their soft product, maybe the logo should have soft, wavy hair too. I'm pretty glad to tell you this wasn't the final. Finally, we decided to go with this particular direction. This concept got chosen because it really connects with the history of the company. Gone has been creating human emotional connection for over 100 years. And also, in the 1980s, they were the first one to really starting to capture the facial expression of these stuffed animals. So we know there's a strong conceptual core behind this direction. But the design itself needs to be refined. The original typeface here is Gill Sans Ultra Bold. It has a surface that led the invisible bear to appear, but itself doesn't stand alone that well as strong type. So we knew we have to restructure it, so we rebalance it and create the visual rhythm that we need. Because Gone is so famous for their soft, safe product, so we also make sure there's no sharp corners anywhere. We create a circle system to make sure all the sharp corners are taken out. Every logo needs a hook. So we decided to focus on the counter for the G and the O, and that's how we created the new Gone typeface. And with this, we bring back the invisible bear that becomes their master logo. And for the master logo, we added the brand extension on top. So this will be able to be used for any of their famous line. For example, Gotta Get It Gone, Baby Gone. You can also extend this to outbound licensing deals endlessly. If they want to go with linen, they can say Linen by Gone, like this. So that's how we establish the foundation of the new Gone brand identity. Tiffany, right? Burberry. No introduction needed. So we definitely know brand identity system goes far beyond just the logo design. And that's why we spent a lot of time tracing all these great products by Gone. And we use them to create this pattern that we call the character cloud. So combining these, that's how we create a brand identity system that can be used large in a trade show situation effectively, or small, like on a hang tag, or on a shopping bag, or even for souvenirs, like a t-shirt. What really excites us about this new identity is the fact that it literally put a face to the company. So on social media, you can actually have Snuffles or Phil Beans be your spokesperson, and every single employee at Gone can also get their personal expression of how they want to become part of this family. So I'm going to leave you with this today. In the age of experiential media, identity is a byproduct of being. So for companies, brands, your brand image is no longer what you say it is, it's what they say it is. So say what you believe and do what you say. And once these millennials, they're inspired, and then they will believe in you. Same thing for teachers like myself. When I teach, I try to demonstrate how excited I am with learning and with experimentation, with creativity, and once they believe me, the sky is the limit. Because being is a key for me to get to make millennials believe and inspired. Thank you.